Welcome everybody to today's webinar, Getting Started with Squirrel Free. I'm Donald MacCormick and I'm going to be your presenter today. The session will be recorded and a link will be sent out to everyone who registered as soon as it is available. By the end of the session, you will understand what Squirrel is and the sort of thing it can do for you and your spreadsheets. Almost all the time will be taken with demos of either Squirrel or what it can create. So without further ado, let's get started. First question is, what is Squirrel 365? And the answer is, it's something that can allow you to stand out from the crowd. And it does that by transforming your spreadsheets, the spreadsheets that you already have, into amazing, interactive, and visual web content. And you can take that content and then you can share it. You can share it in a PowerPoint, you can share it with a link, you can email that link, you can put that link into collaboration tools, you can embed the content on websites. So pretty much anywhere that you can send a link, embed a link, or have or put web content, you can take the output from Squirrel and share it. Now, I said this was going to be demo heavy, so those are the only slides that I have. So the first thing we're going to do here is to look at the possibilities, the sort of things that you can do with Squirrel. Most of these are published up on our website, so you can go and have a look at them. If there are any that you see that you can't find on the website, then feel free to email me and I will let you have them after the call. I will give you my email address right at the end. So we're going to go through 5, 6, 7 different examples of Squirrel output. They all look very different. It's just to give you a flavor of the sort of things that you can do with Squirrel. And then we will look at how you create this, and we'll take you from an empty screen through to creating one of the dashboards that you see here, so that you can understand how these are put together. And the great thing is that by the end of this webinar, you should really understand everything you need to know about Squirrel to be able to get an account, download the software, and create things like this for yourself. So the first thing here is a simple interactive dashboard. The first thing to say here is that I'm sitting here inside PowerPoint. So the first few examples here are showing me are examples of, let's see, someone else admitted. John into the meeting. These are all Squirrel projects that have been output or embedded inside PowerPoint. After we've been through in PowerPoint, we'll look at them again and a few more inside a web browser. We'll have a look at one inside Teams and a few inside embedded in other websites. So although we're starting in PowerPoint, and it's a really cool way of taking your Squirrel output and sharing it, there are, as I said before, a multitude of different ways of doing this. And I said it's highly visual, interactive web content that you create from Squirrel. And so this is an example here of an interactive dashboard. It's very simple. I can just select from my regions, east, south, north, and west. I can look at charts rather than tables. Again, I can drill across here. And although this is very simple, as I say, this is presenting data inside a PowerPoint presentation. And I said, one of the things that Squirrel allows you to do is to stand out from the crowd. There are not many people who will be able to do this sort of presentation inside PowerPoint as part of their presentation. So it really does give you an edge when it comes to presenting your data, your analysis, because you can take it fully sort of seamlessly embedded in PowerPoint, but there and at a click, interactive and able to show the figures in different ways, answer questions interactively as you go. I've done many presentations with Squirrel embedded in PowerPoint, and it always gets a bit of a sort of a look from the audience. How did he do that? And so it genuinely does make you stand out from the rest of the crowd. But it's not just for dashboards. Here's another example of a what-if calculator. Again, remember, all of these are based on spreadsheets. As you will see by the end of the webinar, there's nothing you need here other than Squirrel, a spreadsheet, and your spreadsheet knowledge to be able to create things like this. There's no coding involved. There's no other learning than the formulas that you normally type into Excel or Google Sheets or wherever you do your spreadsheet analysis. And so this is a more typical sort of spreadsheet type analysis. Here I have a what if of all my assumptions here. Gross sales, returns, cost of goods sold feeds into gross profit. Sales expenses, G&A expenses goes into total. Then that goes to operating income, interest and taxes, and net income. And what I can do is I can move the sliders around and see how that affects all of these. Obviously, sales growth changes everything from the top. percentage of operating income actually only changes the taxes and interest percentage only affects that. I can do a little more tweaking of some of the low-level inputs there. And so you can see, you can see how if you put this in a presentation and people start asking questions, well, what happens if we manage to drive our sales expenses down to 15%, then you get down to, you can see how it affects all the outputs. There's a nice little chart here of quarterly income, and you'll notice that also changes as we change. If I get sales growth, you'll notice that it's growing over the quarters. But I also have the ability to look at, some people say, well, how does that look as a table? Because many people want to see numbers rather than charts, and so I can click on the table here and see, and here the numbers, as you'll see, all change as I change my assumptions. So I've got full interactivity in a really nice visual form of data sitting inside PowerPoint based on an underlying spreadsheet model. I've added a little extra in here so we can do some things like maybe you don't like the so I may change the title to sales analysis and say that the bar color should maybe be sea green instead, and I don't want to show the numbers, so I come here and go back to here the numbers are gone and it's turned into sea green. So a lot you can do in terms of making this feel maybe like a mini application, but again just embedded seamlessly in PowerPoint to get your point across. This is a nice one. This is modeled after something I saw Timo Elliott, an ex-colleague of mine at SAP, doing, which is very similar to the last one about sort of calculating down a cascade. So the number of days, number of presentations, slide per presentations, to give you he always used this as an introducer. So one of the things that Squirrel's great at is these sort of attention grabbers at the beginning of presentations. And so you can come in here and say, well, how many days is the conference? Well, it's going to be 2 days. You can see as it goes up to 2 days, the woman there is looking a little more perplexed. Maybe attend more presentations today. She needs to be a bit more zen, up the presentations, the number of slides, and eventually she falls off her chair and the slider goes red. If you want to change the image, you can change it to a chap there. We can change the color of the background. Here we've got an overall slider for the number of slides that someone can tolerate in a day. So it's a little bit of fun. But you can see how you could start a presentation with something like this to sort of, and what Timo was making the point that sort of he always goes for a minimal number of slides in his presentation. So it was like trying to get people into his way of thinking because he didn't want to overload them. Then moving on, this is the one that we're going to look at later on and build parts of this or most of this from scratch. And it's about a calculator for a SaaS software company that it models revenue growth over the first 2 years of the life of the company, and it models it in terms of the how much they spend on advertising, what their sort of churn rate is, their net promoter score, and their paid conversion rate, but also their referrals from people who've already got it, saying, hey, you should use this, and a subscription price. And you can see here that we can, again, as we did before, we can start to change these numbers, maybe push this up so we get a nice exponential curve up there and come down. All the time you see these two KPIs, key performance indicators, are moving. If I move those up far enough and this down far enough, they'll go, there we go, they go orange and red there when the numbers come down. So again, just a really nice way of displaying information interactively. As we'll see in a minute, the model underpinning this is a normal Excel model, but in its normal Excel or Google Sheets form, it would be frankly a little boring, certainly too boring to put in a presentation. This brings it out, accentuates the numbers you want people to see, and allows you to answer questions dynamically as people say, well, what happens if we put our ad budget down to 10,000? Well, the model says that's what would happen. So you can instantly respond to questions. Here's another one that is got a little more in terms of, if you like, sort of user interface for application. This is just something to browse some invoices, some invoice data underpinning this. I can look at this by the different people that I'm supplying with the toys of our childhood. Is a toy manufacturer, and they supplied these products into these retailers, so I can quickly see what's going on at a high level across each of my the people that I supply. But then I can go in and say, maybe I want to look at Twister. When I click on Twister, I can then see the lower level invoices, and in fact, even if I click on here, I can then start to type in, well, that one is 4, so I want to update that to 5. Click update, and there is also the possibility, even from inside PowerPoint, to update to an external database. This one's connected up to a cloud database called Ninox, where if I click on this, it'll update the invoice quantity and recompute and do all those things. So again, this is not, there was no code involved in creating this. It's all done from a spreadsheet so that we can, so that basically anybody who understands how to put together a spreadsheet can put together something like this quickly and easily as a front end to whether it be their database, their spreadsheet, their numbers, the things they want to present. It is a uniquely flexible tool that allows you to do many different things on different sets of data. But it's not just us that's doing this. What I want to show you here is, so I say all those were embedded in PowerPoint, but if I bring this, bring my browser up here, this site here is from Future Metrics. They're a customer of ours. They are consultants to the wood pellet sector. They help people, like, for example, the big Drax power station in the north of England, to move from coal to the more sustainable wood pellets. And one of the things that Bill Strauss there, who's their CEO, does is he uses Squirrel because he had exactly the thing that I'm talking about. He had a number of spreadsheets which talk about his expertise in the market and help people understand what it is that they can do about their carbon footprint in terms of wood pellets and coal and things like that. And what he did was he turned them into Squirrel models so that he could embed each one of these images here is a Squirrel model, and a Squirrel model behind it. So for example, if we click on this one, I'll put it full screen so that you can see it all. Then what it allows people to come to his website and understand the point he's trying to make, and his expertise is delivered through an interactive calculator like this. So talking about how what's the size of the forest associated with the wood chip that's going to the power plant. We can, and as you notice, as this goes up and down, the electricity in terms of homes and cars is shown dynamically in images at the bottom. We can do the individual sort of assumptions here. There's some pop-ups to explain things. You can even get a sort of a little explanatory graph in here. So really a lot going on this. And as I say, Bill, who's his expertise really is in the carbon footprint of the wood pellet industry, or how it can reduce carbon footprint. He is not sort of a developer or a coder, but he creates all these himself from his spreadsheets that he had, that we're talking about the value that his business can offer people. And then sort of a couple of slightly more unusual ones. Here's an example of a Squirrel model that's actually pulling in pages from Wikipedia. So every time I click on one of these celestial bodies, the Moon, Jupiter, Venus, Earth, or Mars, it actually interactively pulls in the Wikipedia page for that. Again, created again with nothing but a spreadsheet. And a couple of silly ones. You can actually, this clock and the timer on the next slide, you can actually go to our website, go to the gallery and download the PowerPoint. You don't have to buy anything, you just use the PowerPoint. It'll give you a clock in PowerPoint, or indeed a meeting timer that can explain to people how soon they have to be back if you're taking a break in your online meeting. So those are some of the things that you can do. They're embedded in PowerPoint. If we come back here, I said I would show you them. Sort of here they are sitting in a browser, so it doesn't have to be in PowerPoint. You can just, if you just sent this link to someone, they would see this growth model. There's the interactive web page, the what if calculator, the choice of our childhood, and there's one other here which is like a fully fledged CRM front end to a database that we wrote in Squirrel. It just gives you a feel for just how sophisticated these things can get. But what we want to do now is rather than actually no, there's one other place I want to show you. Even if you don't have a very complicated requirement on your website, so here's our pricing page. You see the plan comparison here. That is actually a Squirrel project. It turned out that laying this out in the WordPress site we use would have been quite painful, so we just reached for Squirrel, and this is, albeit a static Squirrel model except for the tooltips, this is nonetheless a Squirrel model that's created from information about our plans sitting in a spreadsheet. So the question here is, how is this done? This is what these are the sort of things that you can do, and I say you only need a spreadsheet. So in order to try and convince you of that, I'm going to create that SaaS revenue calculator, or a portion of it, from scratch using just a spreadsheet and Squirrel. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this spreadsheet. So I open it up, and first of all in Excel, you give you an idea what it is, and just show you that it is an ordinary an XLSX file. So here I've got my SaaS revenue that we're talking before, the factors you saw on the Squirrel model, monthly ad budget, customer churn, conversion rate, and all those sort of things. That's just taken into the start column here and then projected in as you would not do in any standard financial Excel model. So this is a relatively very straightforward Excel model. It's got a couple of KPIs here. All the formulas are just standard Excel. There's nothing untoward about this. This is exactly the same as all the spreadsheets that you will have lying around on your hard drive. There's nothing I've done to it that's specific for Squirrel. It's just a good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, let's put this away, and I'm going to come into Squirrel. So this is the Squirrel designer. So if you sign up for an account, and we'll talk about the free account a little later on, when you sign up for an account, you log in, it'll offer you to download the designer, and when you install it, it's like a 2-minute process. You end up here. And the designer has a number of areas. It's got the canvas we're going to build our user interface on. We've obviously got the spreadsheet down here. We've got all the components we add from these component menus. And we've got, when we click on a component, we'll see its properties over here in the property panel. That's all there is to it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to file import, and I'm going to import exactly that file that you just showed me open in Excel. So there it is there. So that was we saw some of these formulas in Excel. The formulas are here in Squirrel as well. Now, Squirrel's a great companion product to Excel. Some people suck out of Excel, and that's a one-way street. We're absolutely not. If you make changes inside Squirrel in your spreadsheet, which you will want to do, and we'll see why a bit later on, then I can export it back out to Excel. So I say export, and I export my changes back out. So it's not cutting Excel off. It genuinely works in combination with Excel. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to add a chart. So you saw there was a chart at the heart of the SaaS revenue calculator. So I'm going to add that chart there. Having added the chart, it appears here on the components section, and I can say, I can rename it if I want to be something more meaningful. So it's my revenue chart, and then I use the properties here to change it. So the first thing I could do is to type my revenue in here. That title goes in there. If I don't want to type it, I can actually get it from the spreadsheet. So I click this button, which is your best friend in Squirrel. It's the magic button that connects me up to the spreadsheet. So that will be recurring revenue now because it's coming from the spreadsheet. You'll notice if I change that, if I was to change that down in here inside Squirrel, recurring rev, it would go to revenue. If I undo it, it comes back to revenue there. I'm going to take off the subtitle. And then for the X and Y, I don't want these titles because we know what we're going to, it'll be obvious what we're going to plot. So I'll take off that title and that title there. And then what we want to do is we want to bind some data into this. So take data from the spreadsheet and put it in the chart. And again, the way we do that is with the button that you saw me bind the title with. It's just the same thing, only I'm going to select a set of values here. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to chart recurring revenue. Like in Excel, I can do Control-Shift-N to get to the end. So it's those 24 columns I want there. And hey presto, I have my chart. The labels are going to come from the labels here, so they don't have to be continuous. I can just have them from the top there. So they're a bit messy. So what I want to do is to go to my X-axis. I've got lots of capability here, so I can make those at 45 degrees so I can see that. And maybe I'll go to my Y-axis and just change the formats here. So that's going to be a currency, it's going to be in dollars, and it's going to have a separator there. So there, I've got my chart of my recurring revenue out of my spreadsheet. Charting on Excel, not or on a spreadsheet, not that big a deal. But then the really interesting thing happens when I come and add a slider in here. And I'm going to say that slider is going to be a percentage. And it's going to maybe go from 0 to 50, and it's going to go in 1% increments. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the value, and that slider is going to control my churn. And so now I've bound that into the churn. What I can do is I can preview this. And what we'll see is as I change my churn, my chart changes. So what's happening is this slider is pushing a value into the spreadsheet, which by the time it gets to the user, the view you're seeing here is hidden away. So it's now it's going into the spreadsheet, all the recalculations are happening, and then when and so the numbers in the chart are changing. And actually, if we go into debug mode to see what's going on under the covers, as I say, an end user of your model would never see this, or your project would never see this because they wouldn't see the spreadsheet. But see, if you watch these numbers carefully over here, because churn acts in the second year, I can do that, and you can see down there these numbers changing as I go. So it's genuinely recalculating the spreadsheet. One interesting thing here is, even if you're not wanting to push this out, it can be really valuable in testing your spreadsheet. Notice what happens when I go too high on my churn rate. Well, I get into negative revenue. That shouldn't happen. So just by moving the slider, I spotted a mistake in my spreadsheet whereby I should really guard against negative revenue some way. And so I've done this many times. I take a few sliders on a spreadsheet, move them around. It's a really great tool for debugging your spreadsheet, even if you don't want to create it and share this with someone else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit, copy and edit, paste that control there, because I can do it for multiple ones. So I'm now just going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to do it for the referral conversion rate. I might want to add some text that's going to maybe make it a little smaller because it's just a label. And I'm going to bind this to the churn, where it says monthly churn, and maybe make that left align again. I can copy and paste that down to there and make that into the conversion rate now. So I'm starting to see the assumptions panel you saw on the final thing appearing there the way that it did in the final one that I showed you earlier. And I don't have to, so now I can come in here and preview, and so these will both now change different ways. That will make it, that's better, so things go up. This is worse because it makes things go down. And so you can start to see how they interact with each other. It's really a quick way to get a feel for your model, again, even if you're not sharing it, just to understand the dynamics of it. But again, when you put it in PowerPoint, you can answer all these questions. It becomes a very powerful tool for sharing the logic of your model with other people. It doesn't have to be sliders. We can do things like, for example, I'll take this value input. So maybe something like the amount I'm spending on advertising is better done as a number. I can style that as a, and say that's again a currency in dollars, and use that. So now I come in here and I can change how much I spend, see what happens. Oh, actually, no, I don't want to go up in ones there. I'll go up in 1,000 so that it makes a substantial difference. There you go, 16,000. You can see how it changes the revenue profile as I do that. And you could stop there. Just connect your inputs of your model to some components and your outputs to charts and tables. Then you could, that's a really good use of Squirrel, and you may just do that and be done with it and get enormous value. But we can take it a couple of steps further. The first thing I'm going to do is to show you those the KPIs that we saw in the finished model. So you see we had KPIs up here. Well, what I'm going to do is add a new sheet in here. Sheet 3, I'll rename it as Squirrel, and then I'm going to have the value of the KPI in here, or it's text rather. Maybe I have to call that text. So this is the text of the KPI I'm going to show, and I can create Excel style or spreadsheet style formulas to create that. So I'm just going to say that equals this text and a space and the text of this formatted to 0.0%, like that. So that's a classic spreadsheet function. You don't have this one. I mean, you don't have to learn. That is something you would type into Excel or Google Sheets. There's nothing else to learn. It's those exactly the same functions and formulas that you're using here. So now what I can do is I can put a text on here. I can say I'm going to bind to that. So now I've got that there, but I'm going to make it bigger, maybe make it 25, and I'm going to make it black on white. So I can do that there. No, I don't want to do it white on black, apologies, to make it stand out. There we go. And again, now that it's part of the model, because it's driven by a formula, when I move this, you can see it changing. And then what I might want to do is say, well, I want to change its color. So I'm going to have a color in here. And that color is going to, well, actually, no, I'm going to make a target first. And the target is going to be 80%. So in spreadsheet speak, that's 0.8. So I format that as a percentage. And then the color is going to be equals if my indicator is less than my target, in here, my target, then red, otherwise green. So again, it's just a little formula there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind the color of the text into that cell like that. So now what happens if I preview this? Then off I go, and you see as it goes up, it goes green or red. So I'm starting to get interactivity, color coding based on the numbers in my spreadsheet. So as I say, there are more components and more capabilities in Squirrel, but you now have the basic idea of how to create a Squirrel model. You take your spreadsheet, you bind the inputs to input controls, you bind the outputs to display controls, and then you can add other bits of logic to make things either turn on and off, change different colors, and that's how everything that you saw earlier, all the different projects you saw earlier, and that's how it was all done. So if I open, let's go here, I discard all those changes and open the one I had here. So this is the finished one. There's nothing else going on in here. I've just added another KPI. Actually, in here there are 3 thresholds or 2 different thresholds. So it goes orange, green, orange, red. But now I've got this polish thing here. Does exactly the sort of same thing as you saw earlier, only with more of the inputs, a table, and a little more polish. Now, having done that, and you've basically seen me do that in the time that we've been on together, I take that and it's like one-click publish. So I go to the cloud, say I want to publish to the cloud, and I'm going to say the Squirrel free webinar. I'm going to publish this new project. So I click publish. That takes it, generates my project, and it takes me into the project manager, and now it's here. I can say I want to make that live so I can share it, and I can then go to the sharing, and I can say I'm going to copy the web link. If I go back to my browser, then what we see is it's there in the browser. So and you could send that link to anyone now, and they would be able to see that. If I want to go to PowerPoint, then I just come back to here. I copy this PowerPoint ID. I download the free PowerPoint add-in for Squirrel Squirrel add-in for PowerPoint. Type that in, and everything that you saw earlier in the in PowerPoint, working in PowerPoint would work there as well. I can even take, sorry, if I come back here, I can even take this share here and get code. I can embed it into something like WordPress, or for sites like, if I come up here, you can see I've written a few stories on Medium. One, for example, is understanding R, the COVID infection rate, and I added. So this is one of my models there. It's got some animation in it that I added, and so it animates in there. I can switch to manual, and it's more traditional model. And if you want to see how that's done, if I come back here and can I come back? Yes, I'm going to write a story. Then that link that I saw, not enough hours. That link, if I just a second, I'm getting ahead of myself. If I want to paste in that link, this Cloud Squirrel link there, and say return, it automatically sorts itself out, and there, hey presto, I've embedded my SaaS revenue capability inside my Medium post. It really is easy to share these wherever you can share web content. So that's how it's done. It's done by taking your spreadsheet and turning them from ordinary spreadsheets into extraordinary content, just by importing the spreadsheet, putting your user interface controls, your charts, your sliders, whatever it is, onto the canvas, and then hooking those up to the components up to the spreadsheet, and then pressing publish and putting it on the web. You can then share it with a link. You can embed it in PowerPoint. You can embed it in collaboration tools. You can get these appearing in Microsoft Teams, for example. We're out of time, so I won't show you it there, but you can add it into a channel in Teams. You can add it to your website, as you saw with the future metrics projects, and the pricing page you saw on our website, and all with clicks, your understanding of spreadsheets, but no code whatsoever. And one of my favorite ones, I couldn't resist. There's, again, this is nothing to do with spreadsheets really, but is based on a spreadsheet, because all objects in Squirrel can be put at different positions on the screen depending on, you can bind the position of an object to the spreadsheet, so that's possible as well. My favorite optical illusion, if you've not seen it before, you will not believe me, but that tile is the same color as that tile. So if I move it, you see it moves down there. I'll move it straight to start with, move it straight down. I'm not changing the color of that tile. It's almost impossible to believe. You think, no, Donald, you're changing the color of that tile as it moves. You're not. Your eyes are changing the color of that, or more accurately, your brain is changing the color of that. I thought maybe it would be more obvious if I made it curvy so that you could curve it out like that, but still it feels like it's changing. Or maybe I make it into a dot, but still it looks like the dot's changing color. I promise you it's not. It's staying the same shade of gray all the way through. It is one of the most bizarre optical illusions. But all of that, the path of that dot, and where it is between start and finish, whether it's curvy or not, whether it's a tile or a dot, is all controlled by spreadsheet logic. So I created this without writing any code, without having to be a web developer, but I can use this as my favorite sort of icebreaker at the beginning of presentations, or leave it with you thought at the end of a presentation, as I am here. So if you want to see for yourself, go to our showcase on our website, and you'll see many of these examples. The clock and the timer from PowerPoint, you can just download the slides and use them. You don't have to buy Squirrel, you can just use the output. But if you want to get more involved, get a free account. Go to squirrel365.io/get-started. That gives you a free account. That free account gives you unlimited personal projects. You create as many projects as you want, and you can display those on your machine inside Squirrel as much as you want. You can view them on the web using a one-time link from the project manager. With the free version, you get one shared project, and so you can share one project at a time, but that's not one project forever. You don't say, well, this is my shared project and that's it. You can make projects shared and unshared, so you can have one project at a time, which is particularly useful for PowerPoint, because if I'm doing one PowerPoint, I can turn on one particular project. If I'm doing another PowerPoint, I can turn on another project, and so with one project, rather than having more than one project in any particular PowerPoint presentation, then you can use the free version to do that, and it's free in perpetuity. You can just use that for as long as you want. Obviously, we hope that you will get enough value out to come and buy some more projects from us. So that's the tour of Squirrel. I hope you now understand the sort of things that you can do with it, how easy it is to do it based on your existing spreadsheets and your existing knowledge. As ever, we're out of time. There's a lot more we could talk about. If you have any questions that you want me to follow up, any of the models you've seen you want to get access to, then feel free to email me. My email is donald@squirrel365.io. So with that, thank you very much for coming. I hope that it proved useful, and we hope to see you using Squirrel sometime soon. Thank you very much.